Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind those everyday, mundane things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, Spicy Pickle 47. Thanks for the suggestion, Pickle. You asked, why does mint make our mouth feel cold? Great question. You pop a mint into your mouth, and suddenly it feels like winter just moved in. But there's no ice, no actual drop in temperature, just your brain getting bamboozled by science. So what's really going on here? Let's break it down right here on Explaining Everything. Your body has a whole network of sensors dedicated to detecting temperature changes. Think of them as tiny weather reporters, constantly sending updates to your brain. One of the MVPs of this system is a protein called TRPM8, pronounced TRPM8, which is responsible for detecting cold sensations. Normally, it only activates when you eat or drink something genuinely cold, like ice cream, or that questionable leftover soda you left in the fridge for 3 days. But here's where menthol, the active compound in mint, pulls off its little magic trick. It binds to TRPM8 and activates it without actually changing the temperature in your mouth. Your brain completely falls for it, like a person believing a Photoshop-heavy dating profile. The result? You feel cold, even though nothing has actually changed. It's basically sensory fraud, and your nervous system is the victim. Now, if mint fakes cold, then hot peppers do the same thing, but in the opposite direction. Enter capsaicin, the compound in chili peppers responsible for making your mouth feel like it just entered the 7th circle of hell. Capsaicin binds to a different receptor called TRPV1, which normally detects heat. It tricks your brain into thinking your mouth is on fire, even though it's totally fine. That's why when you eat something spicy, you start sweating like you just got caught in a lie. Your body genuinely thinks it's overheating and kicks in its cooling mechanisms, even though the only real problem is your terrible decision-making skills. Basically, menthol is a prankster, and capsaicin is a sadist. Ever notice that mint feels even colder when you take a deep breath? That's because your TRPM8 receptors aren't just responding to menthol. They're also sensitive to actual cold air. So here's what happens. First, menthol activates TRPM8, tricking your brain into thinking your mouth is cold. Second, you take a breath, and suddenly real cool air hits those receptors. Third, your brain freaks out. It's like getting a text from your boss that says, "We need to talk," and then immediately getting an email saying, "Meeting scheduled for Monday." Your brain was already anxious, and now it's extra convinced something's wrong. That's why sucking on a mint and breathing in feels like you just swallowed a snowstorm. Now, let's say you go way too hard on the mint. Like you eat an entire pack of strong mints, drink a bucket of peppermint tea, and rub Vicks Vapor Rub on your gums, which, for legal reasons, I must say, do not do this. Would your mouth freeze over? Not quite. Your TRPM8 receptors get tired. If you keep bombarding them with menthol, they eventually go, "Okay, we're over this," and start ignoring the signals. That's why the first mint feels arctic, but by the 20th one, it's just a mild breeze. So, no, You can't turn yourself into a human popsicle, but you can make yourself immune to the cooling effect for a while. Kind of like how horror movies stop being scary after you watch too many. Menthol isn't just here to prank your brain. It actually has some pretty useful side effects. It helps clear nasal congestion. That's why menthol is in cough drops and vapor rubs. It tricks your brain into thinking your airways are open, even if they're still clogged tighter than airport security lines. It has a mild numbing effect. Since menthol activates cold receptors, it can also make your mouth feel slightly numb, which is why it's used in pain relief creams. It repels mosquitoes. No joke, mosquitoes hate menthol. So, if you ever find yourself in a mosquito-infested area, just bathe in peppermint oil. Kidding. But also, maybe try it. And of course, it freshens breath, which is a polite way of saying it helps you recover from that garlic-heavy meal you definitely shouldn't have eaten before a date. So, knowing that menthol can trick our nerves, could we supercharge it for maximum coldness? Well, scientists already have. There are synthetic cooling agents like WS3 and WS23, which are way more intense than natural menthol. Some high-end toothpastes and chewing gums use them to deliver a next-level icy blast. So yes, people have successfully weaponized mint. The future is here, and it's terrifyingly refreshing. So, to sum it up, mint doesn't actually cool your mouth. It just tricks your brain into thinking it does. Menthol activates the same receptors that respond to cold, so your nervous system falls for the illusion completely. That's why breathing in after eating mint makes the cooling sensation even stronger. It's your brain doubling down on the deception. And if you eat too much mint, your cold senses eventually stop reacting, like a kid who's heard the same joke 100 times. But in the end, whether you're popping a breath mint or eating a peppermint candy, just remember, your mouth isn't actually cold. It's just falling for one of the greatest scams in sensory history. If you liked this video and are now giving those mints the side eye, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.